Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me here today. It's really exciting to see that we have around 58 people signed up to attend, showing that we've got a really great support for this program. So I'm very excited to chat to you and also hear from you as a part of this presentation. My name's Danielle Griffin and I am the Philanthropic Services Manager at FRRR and the Program Manager for Community-Led Climate Solutions. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the country I'm coming to you from. I'm in Merimbula on the tribal lands of the Jirinjan, one of the groups of the Yuin people. So I'd just like to, in the spirit of reconciliation, acknowledge the traditional owners throughout Australia and the connections to land seeing community, and also acknowledge all the countries on which you are coming to us today from. Today's agenda, I'll give you an overview of FRRR and then we'll talk about the Community-Led Climate Solutions Grant Program and, you know, really what's behind it. And I think that actually helps you as you start to really think about your projects. We'll have time for questions after that. This is a Grantseeker workshop, so the objective is that after we've talked about the actual grant program, we'll run you through some of the tips we give in regards to successful grant seeking more broadly. But what I'll be doing is a little bit of polling throughout this, just to assess who's in the room and particularly about your grant seeking experience, because I don't want to be telling people things they already know. And also, I think sometimes it's really important for us to spend time on those questions and understand what people are thinking about, asking about, and hearing what other people are doing. So I probably would put more time into that than towards the tips for grant seeking. And as I said, you will receive this presentation. So about FRRR. Stands for Foundation for Rural Regional Renewal. And we are the only national foundation specifically focused on ensuring social and economic strength in remote, rural and regional Australia. We work with government and philanthropy and also private donors to advance community purposes. If you look at our resilience agenda, as our organisation has grown over the last almost 25 years, we've really honed our focus in regards to our vision of a vibrant, resilient and revitalised remote, rural and regional Australia, and really understanding that it's about the people, the place, and looking at the context of the world we live in today, disaster resilience and climate solutions. When we look at that national resilience agenda, we understand that, you know, the biggest threat to the sustainability and viability of remote, rural and regional Australia is climate change and natural disasters. And importantly, know that the solutions are held in local knowledge and the intersections of people and place. So when we think about the why and the how, it really is FRRR communities are disproportionately impacted by changing climate and energy and industry transitions, and that the knowledge lies within them. So they're living in the conditions and considering better ways all the time for risk mitigation and adaptation, looking at that reduction of carbon intensive practices and initiatives such as recycling and circular economy practices, and also navigating transitions where relevant in those communities where significant change is happening. We're really fortunate that we're collaboratively funded by donors committed to enabling remote, rural and regional communities across Australia with regards to climate solutions. So I'd just like to acknowledge them today. In round one, our funders were Boundless, whose purpose is to accelerate climate solutions and the scale and speed in Australia, and also Hand Heart Pocket, a charity of the Freemasons Queensland, whose purpose is to partner for change for people in need in Queensland, including communities who are preparing for or recovering from natural disasters. These round one funders are also contributing to round two, along with two new funders, the Paul Ramsay Foundation, who are invested in the future of Australian people and their thriving communities, with that idea that they want to invest in, build and influence the conditions needed to stop disadvantage in Australia. And the QBE Foundation, which is backing Elders Insurance in regards to this grant program. They're committed to creating strong, resilient and inclusive communities across Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific in partnership with organisations like FRRR. And it's really exciting to have them on board for this year and the following 2 years, as it indicates their understanding of the importance of climate solutions and also their commitment and belief in the ability for rural, regional and remote communities to provide solutions at grassroots levels. So the overall goal of the program is reducing greenhouse gas emissions and addressing impacts of climate change for positive, sustainable environmental, social and economic outcomes. And if you're not familiar with FRRR, not-for-profit organisations are all eligible to apply, seeking to implement a project that addresses or mitigates the impact of a changing climate on their community. In this round, we've introduced definitions because we're conscious of the breadth of definitions in communities. So I'm not going to read those all out, but I do encourage you to have a look at them in the guidelines so that you can appreciate what we're talking about, or when you're talking to us, you're reflecting our understanding of, these common terms for climate solutions. So for this grant round, we have $625,000 in grant funds available, which is really exciting. The small grants in Stream 1 are for engaging and delivering, and those are up to $20,000. And Stream 2 are scaling grants, so specifically for existing projects that want to scale up their initiative. And they're up to $75,000, the value of the grants, and we have $225,000 available. So it is a smaller number of grants that will be given out there. So what's really important is, in considering which stream you're going to apply into, is the objectives that define the criteria for that stream. So Stream 1, engage and deliver, must achieve at least one of the following objectives. So either driving engagement, through a program of information or seminars or other ways of engagement in your community to inform and lead in regards to climate change. The second objective is really looking at that locally led opportunity. That might be some kind of program or conversation that is about advancing the clean energy transition, a climate adaptation project, decarbonisation or circular economy. So really probably a specific project or program of work. And finally, supporting just transition. So this is very much about those communities that are involved in the renewable energy transition, and ensuring that everyone is involved in that community, that your voice is being heard, and that you feel able to participate in that. Our timelines are really specific here. The grant was opened last Thursday and it will close on the 26th of September. Stream 2, the larger grant stream, is for scaling grants, and because there's not a large amount of funds, we're very specific in regards to the type of projects that we're expecting to support through this. So I really encourage you to think of your project and go through these 4 criteria to understand your alignment. They must be scaling an existing locally led project. You should be directly alleviating socioeconomic disadvantage in the community. Be able to demonstrate how that project is appropriate to solution in regards to risk or impact of climate change, and also improving the capacity of the local community to take an active role or lead in mitigation or adaptation of climate change. This is an expressions of interest. We want people to present their ideas to us by next Friday, the 22nd of August. Actually, I think that's next Thursday, the 22nd of August. And then we'll be looking at those over 2 weeks, and we will respond to all the expressions of interest that we receive in regards to whether they'll be progressing to a full application or the reason why they're not successful in being put forward. We're hoping that given this time frame, they then have a further 3 weeks to apply for possibly a lower amount if that's applicable. So we're hoping that supports everyone that's working in this space to participate in this grant program.
Yeah.
There's a broad amount of activity that goes on in the climate solution space, and there's probably things that we don't even know about. So these are the activities that we say can be funded. And as you can see, there's local events and activities that might be engaging and educating members on those solutions that we're talking about, clean energy or circular economy practices, projects that deliver climate change adaptations, so very localised responses to what's being experienced, potentially to support better efficiency in buildings, but also that whole idea of engaging the community in that. Projects that include First Nations land and sea management practices that support climate solutions, regenerative practices for land and sea, sustainable agricultural and food systems. We're really interested in how the food systems in your communities might be being impacted by climate, and where the local community decision making is going on there, or the local jobs that can ensure there's access and equity in regards to that. Also just, those projects that are reducing, reusing and recycling. So there's some really exciting examples going around, and we're interested in seeing all of those. We do have the priorities, and I think this just reinforces what we've talked about with regards to criteria. Locally led, you'll hear that a lot. This is a priority in FRRR, that these projects are locally driven. That the project delivers the social or economic benefits in addition to environmental outcomes. We are looking for evidence-based and strategic planning that sustains program operations, and also that idea of inclusion with regards to ensuring diverse community members and stakeholders are a part of the conversation. So just some things that we learnt in round one, and I do encourage you just to have a look at the organisations via our website with regards to what grants we gave out in round one, if you've got any ideas or you just want to see the types of organisations that were funded. We're really looking for the primary objective of whatever project is submitted to be about a climate solution. Things such as food security initiatives or putting solar on roofs need to be engaging the community in those solutions really proactively, so it's a broader conversation that's kind of shifting the conditions and the conversation around that, not just purely for reducing costs to the organisation. So just really want to emphasise that. Emissions reduction, we're really conscious that measurement of emissions reduction and those things can be quite difficult. We encourage people to look at projects that might be similar to those that have been done overseas, to look at the way that they have quantified their impact. And with regards to projects that are looking to support environmental awareness, it's really important for there to be a strong rationale and capability demonstrated in your application with regards to how you would engage a diverse audience in those conversations, and the kind of behaviour change you expect to influence through the information and your mechanisms of engagement. Once again, as I said, community-led. It's a huge priority, and one thing we really encourage is that any organisations that are maybe external that are coming into work with the community really show us the support they have within that community for the key stakeholders. Letters of support are a really great testament in regards to that, and also just demonstrating other engagement that shows how on board people are, and also the breadth of engagement that may have occurred in coming to this point. Always important to say what can't be funded. So obviously areas that are the responsibility of federal, state and local governments. Core operational costs. We are very interested in funding any cost related to the project being delivered, including support for wages that are directly related to the project. But if an organisation has core business, such as the CEO wage or the rent on the building, that can't be covered through this grant program. Obviously, it's a localised program, so overseas travel and overseas projects are not funded through here. Prizes, gifts, trophies or awards, not really relevant, I would think, to the types of projects we're expecting, but always important to understand if you are running an external event, look for sponsorship for anything that might be more commercial like that or would benefit an individual in any way. This grant program is not about political lobbying, but it is about the conversations communities need to have with potential influential stakeholders. So we're interested to understand how you're presenting, who you're presenting to, but just give us a call if you've got any questions on your project with regards to that. This is about broad community benefit, so benefiting a private business, a sole trader or any private interests are excluded. And also focusing on animal welfare. You might see that there's a grant that was given in the last round for an environmental group to invest in their customer database, to build their supporter base, to better work with their volunteers. And while a lot of their work is actually supporting the wildlife in their community, it's really important about the education of the environmental conservation around that area and the support of those volunteers and that community in being involved there. Once again, sport, recreation and social activities are not considered charitable activities under Australian law. This may not necessarily be a big concern with regards to these grants, but it's important for any sporting organisations that might be looking at initiatives that they're doing, that they appreciate that the benefit needs to be broadly for the community, not just for their club, even if it looks like a climate solution such as solar panels. While I've said that it is open to all not-for-profit organisations, and it is, it's just important that you understand you can only submit one application per grant round. You do need to have an incorporation certificate and or an ABN. And we do ask for constitutions where possible to support us in understanding your not-for-profit status. Not eligible to apply are individuals and sole traders, as discussed, and an organisation that's not a legal entity. We do allow organisations that may not be a legal entity but may be working in the community to be auspiced by another registered not-for-profit. Other reasons that an organisation may not be eligible include the fact that you haven't provided the required financial information. There's outstanding FRRR grant reports. So if you have received a grant from FRRR in the past, please ensure that you have acquitted it within the time period if you've currently got a grant with FRRR that you're working on, that's fine. That's allowable, but anything that's outstanding needs to be acquitted before we will consider another grant. Also, please understand that we don't fund retrospectively. These projects, we will be announcing the grants at the end of the year, towards mid-December. The project needs to be starting after that period. It can't be something that's happening in the next few months. And please make sure you complete the whole application. We can't assess an application or a project that doesn't consider or provide all the information requested. I've got a few examples from our first grant round in regards to projects that were funded. This was the Nagata Cooperative Limited, and they were auspiced by Original Power. This project was a part of a larger project with regards to the development of this community's locally owned power grid. And a big part of the funding is actually going to support that local community to develop their training and overcome their local skills gap so that they have the capability to run that grid once it's established. So these are the kind of, I suppose, projects that we understand with big infrastructure can often kind of go under the radar. And suddenly an organisation, you know, has a responsibility for quite a large operation, and they don't have that governance or experience to actually drive it. So this is a really great example of what a small grant can do to ensure that communities are capable and their people have the capacity. This is a great project from the past of FRRR, where a 10,000 grant went to a dairy waste energy study project in Margaret River. Very clearly, it was about the greenhouse gas emissions in that local community and how they might reduce them, and to ultimately operate as a net zero carbon area. So as a result, the study was funded, and they then had a feasibility project to actually take forward and put into application that ensured they could measure methane and look at actually recycling that manure waste as an energy source and build the community awareness around that. This was funded in the last round. Gympie and District Sustainability Alliance worked with their auspice Community Action Inc., which is a social housing and community organisation in Gympie, to actually develop the building energy efficiency project for those tenancies. So there was 2 buildings owned by Community Action Inc., and they installed solar, batteries, air conditioners and ceiling installation to support a more effective running of the operation. Really importantly, I think, is understanding this as a project that has those social benefits, ensuring that those tenants, which included both a local youth group and also housing for domestic violence survivors, were able to benefit with the cost reductions and that this brought about, but also, you know, be living in a far healthier environmental situation. This project, Surface for Climate, is a really interesting way to think about communities differently. When we think of communities, we often think of them being geographically located, but this is really that mindset of what we have in common. And Surface for Climate is about those people that surf, that care about the ocean, you know, through what they're doing, what they're invested in. And what this group recognised, that a lot of those surfers are also tradies, and they thought they had the opportunity to engage their audience in climate change where they work, and show them how they can influence. So they are running workshops to actually deliver those messages with proper information and looking at decarbonisation, with the idea that then those tradies are informed to go in and take that into their work. So it's a really lovely catalyst for change in conversations as we rebuild or renovate homes. We've also got the Kiwa catchment land care. We're conscious that electric vehicles are both expensive and also potentially in rural, regional and remote communities are not necessarily seen as viable due to their battery time. So this was really important to have this group engage at a grassroots level. They were running workshops and information sessions. They were able to inform people about secondhand programs of importing electric vehicles that were more affordable. And also they were working on initiatives with the local school in regards to engaging children that would get their licence soon about electric vehicles. And also looking at, ensuring that there was more charges in their local community, so it changes the actual space and environment. This is a great example of a engagement energy workshops. So really just addressing that energy inefficient homes, bringing people together to be presented with information. We know there's a lot of information out there, but we also know that sometimes it can be hard to find the right information or information that's relative to you. So this is a great example of how we engage and educate. Okay, so encourage you all to read the guidelines really thoroughly and ensure that you're eligible to apply. And if you have any questions, please call FRRR. We have great people on the phone who are knowledgeable about many different kinds of projects and also about the Climate Solutions Program. So, we appreciate that it takes a lot of time to write an application. So we really encourage you, if you've got any questions, to reach out. Just letting you know that all applications are notified of their outcome. If you're successful, you'll be directed in how to access your funds. If you're unsuccessful, you can give us a call and we will give you feedback. Now, I'm actually going to go to questions. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I'm going to have a look at what we've got in the chat and just see. Do NFPs need to be a DGR? No, you don't need to have deductible gift recipient status. You just need to be a not-for-profit with a constitution that demonstrates and that your not-for-profit status, and also that the project you're doing is charitable. How do we define regional? So FRRR usually refers to the remote health care workforce site to help us identify communities, but really, and that shows metro communities, and largely that has to do with population and also access to essential services. If you're unsure of if you're thinking you're peri-urban, so you're on the edge of a metro area, feel free to give us a call and find out more about that, to just make sure that you are eligible. And once again, someone's put that in the chat. So, okay, all right, this is a great question. Please provide examples of what evidence of community support and benefit realisation may look like. For example, something like adaptation to a heat wave that may not happen for a while. Okay, I have seen applications like this. with regards to playgrounds and increasing heat in playgrounds and understanding what kind of adaptation might be made to support that. So the evidence that they provided to us was the projections for increasing climates in that region. They also had done some testing in regards to the heat in particular areas there. It was a large concrete area. And then the solutions they were providing were largely shading. And they also referred to, overseas research in that in regards to reducing heat. I know you're saying that a heat wave may not happen or it may be, in the next few years. This grant program is probably looking at those communities that are, that risk is really obvious at the moment. So a community that currently, does have hot summers, and that's being exacerbated by a longer summer or even unseasonable weather. I think it's looking at those weather patterns and telling us about that experience and the conditions that you're living in, and referring to other projects that may be overseas or in Australia that reflect similar conditions is the best way. So we understand you can't predict there's going to be a heat wave, but just adaptations that might occur to ensure that your community that experiences heat now and is likely to experience increased heat over the next few years, that's enough information for us to be able to assess and understand that need. Sarah, I've got the lovely Sarah Matthew on the line. And I don't know if you've seen this. Sarah is the portfolio lead for the climate solutions at FRRR. So she's working on this program as well as several other initiatives. Have you seen this question, Sarah, from Jamie?
Yeah, I was just reading it now. Thanks, Jamie. Probably best to give Danielle a call or email in, and we can have a specific discussion about it, because I think it's a particularly interesting example. But yeah, we because of the supporters that we have, they also have their own preferences about what they can fund and so on. So we're often trying to match what requirements they have with the projects that you're all working on so wonderfully. So if we aren't able to support a Stream 2 project, it's not because we don't think it's an amazing project. It's just because of those requirements in mind. But yeah, it would be a great one to discuss. Thank you.
Now, someone's asked some examples of I think they're saying Stream 2 projects, but yes, which have been funded in recent years. This is the first time we've run Stream 2 projects, which I think is, it's a new ground for us, but I think the criteria is really important to refer to in your project. As we said, it is a scaling initiative. So existing people, I've just lost that word. We are expecting people who have an existing climate solutions project operating to be the applicants for this grant program. So I think anyone that is working in community and is operating a climate solutions program or solution may want to look at this and see, is there something that they're wanting to advance? It may be that you're doing something quite small at the moment, but you understand there's a bigger opportunity, and that, grant up to $75,000 may support you with the increased salary that would support you to do further research or run more programs, or actually just physically scale your ability with operations with equipment. So and so that expectation is also that your community organisation is doing charitable work, and therefore the outcomes of that project will be benefiting your community positively in regards to socio and economic disadvantage. So it's exploring those ideas against that criteria, I think, the best way for us to present it at the moment. I think that Gympie project is a really interesting one to look at in regards to the building efficiency project. Another part of that initiative was actually talking to other social housing providers and really showcasing their project to hopefully influence behavioural change more broadly in that region with regards to shifting to building efficiency to support social housing tenancies. So I hope that's helped. But once again, I think as Sarah said, any specific questions, both the EOI will assist you to kind of go through the process, but also feel free to get in touch with us and if you need to, make an appointment to have a conversation. Any other questions that people just want to bring from the floor?
I will jump in if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
James from Farm My School here. Keen to know if we submitted one in the last round, we were unsuccessful. Are we able to, we'll be going for a different sort of thing, obviously.
Yep.
But keen to know if we can get some feedback just on that general application of how we wrote it. Basically to prep us for this one, if that is possible. Yeah,
that's fine, James. I'll make a note and I'll send you an email and we'll set up a time. Because I know your application and it was highly regarded. There was probably just some challenges in our thinking around some of the broader community benefit and those kind of things. So very happy to chat to you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Pleasure. If we don't have any more questions, and as I said, feel free to put more questions in the chat if you've got them as you come along. I will share again and I'll go through our grant seeking tips just to support you. If you're a super confident grant seeker, I won't be insulted if you jump off the line now. We do find that often people, though, just pick up little tips and tricks from this session that support them. So I think what we've been hearing is it's all about you telling us your community story and letting us know what's needed, why, who, and how. We're expecting that you're either solving an issue or creating an opportunity in your community. So really coming to us with that perspective. So what are you going to do? I think sometimes people have great ideas and the idea is, bring it down to really actionable activity and really letting us know about that need and opportunity. I always put in my head, what will happen if you do not do this project when I'm assessing? I think, what happens if this project doesn't happen? Is it important? Is it compelling? Is it needed? So if you want to help me out, please tell me what's important and what will happen if you don't do the project that you're wanting to do. As we said, evidence, research, statistics are really important. You don't have to give us reams, but just giving us references. When you're answering things, just try to tell us that story so that we can actually kind of visualize it in our minds. So don't be too broad in regards to just saying you're going to do community education events. We need to understand what the format looks like, the why of that and what the outcome will be. Also with the why, don't be too vague with regards to this. We really need to understand consultation, as someone said, what do you want to see as evidence? Have you talked to the community about it? Look, we see great stuff happening on Facebook pages. And so, often responses on that will tell us things, but also formal surveys, vox pops, and also understanding how people are engaged and their attendance at different things. Really important to understand who's actually involved, the volunteers, the participants, the beneficiaries, and any, local stakeholders, including both community organisations and businesses. It's really good for us if a project looks quite complex to understand that you've got someone on your committee who's actually got experience, or you're seeking experience. So don't leave us guessing when we're reading. Tell us about those people that have got that great skills and have those ideas and experience that make us really confident and excited about that project. Really giving us detail is important. Sometimes it's very big picture, but we need to see that project planning in the application. So, what are the tasks, the resources and the responsibility? What actually gets things done? What are the critical project dates? And also, really importantly, if you are running an event, or if you're actually putting in infrastructure or making changes to an existing building, our light bulbs go off and go, oh, do they need permits for that? Have they engaged council? What other things are in place? Thankfully, COVID safe plans aren't quite as needed now, maybe not. But, anything that's current that would raise a question for us, please try to think how you can answer it in your application. Another really good question to ask yourself is, what does success look like? Success looks like 50 people turning up to, an engagement session, hanging around and chatting afterwards. For those people not to be your usual suspects or just your volunteers, people that are new, people that are diverse, I think it's lovely to have that vision in your mind, because then when you're planning, you start to go, well, how do we reach those people? How do we make those networks work? So here's a great example too of answering that how, when and where. If you don't know, exactly when you're going to be able to hold your event, give us the best case scenario. If things change, things change. But, once again, what does success look like? Success looks like holding this event in March 2025, because we know that's when people are available in our town, that it's not a busy time. It's before football and after cricket. Those kind of things are really important, I think, just to indicate. How much it will cost is also really important. A clear budget actually lets us form a picture of what's actually going to occur, and make sure that you consider all the costs that are going to be involved and who might be paying for them. Some of these projects may be quite big, and you might be asking for $20,000 on a project that overall is like $200,000. So that's where we actually need to understand what we are actually funding as a part of that project. So it's really important to say we are asking for funding for this part of the project. And please don't make up costs, but we do understand that sometimes quotes are difficult to get. So just ensure you can explain the rationale for the budget that you're presenting to us. That's the really important thing. Also, it's great to see co-contribution from either your own organisation or other partners and supporters. Once again, that's where we see community-led, community involvement, community support. Plan your application. This can seem really basic, and I think it's great. There's a lot of time to get this application in. So please read and follow the guidelines, and follow all the application instructions, and give us a call if you've got any questions. Reach out as soon as you can to those people that you might need quotes or letters of support from, or details of financials. Make sure your budget adds up, and tell us a compelling story. We can only assess what we have to hand, and we don't typically chase up material. Sometimes we might give people a call, but put your best foot forward when you're doing this, and we are available to support you throughout the process. I love this. I think if I was writing grants at the moment, I would, keep this on my wall, because I think it's really good just to actually take a step back and don't get too complex about it. think of that idea of using clear, simple language. Really important is, think about person knows nothing about your organisation. So you really have to introduce them to yourself as an organisation and also to your community. And be specific when answering questions, not vague. Avoid technical language, and sometimes we appreciate this stuff can be technical. So try and work out how you can say it simply, and then potentially provide an additional document to support it. Use evidence to support your claims. Make it clear how you're going to use the requested funds. Spell out acronyms, because there seems to be a lot of them around these days. And use facts, not opinions. I think it's really valuable to think about your opinions and work out how you back it up with those facts. Okay, so that's the end of our session. Obviously, we've got community-led climate solutions that's open now. The EO closes on the 22nd of August, but the applications for all Stream 1 and Stream 2 close on the 26th of September. So you've got plenty of time. But just making people aware too that we do have, FRRR has Strengthening Rural Communities Round 22 currently open for grants up to the value of $10,000 for broad community projects. I will stop sharing. As I said, we will send you out the presentation and the slide deck, and also some notes from the chat within 48 hours. Appreciate any feedback you would like to give us. And really grateful for everyone turning up today. I do hope that you've learnt something and that you apply. We were speaking to some funders this morning, and we said one of the really important things about this is understanding what people are doing in communities, what's important to them, and the solutions they have. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for dialing on. Look forward to seeing all the applications and hopefully being able to support a really broad range of projects.
Lovely. Thank you very much.